The movie opens in the North African desert, 8000 BC. An entire village is awakened to loud blaring, bright lights, and a large pyramid-shaped ship descending from the sky. While the other villagers panic, a young man steps forward and a bright light engulfs him. In 1928 Egypt, Dr. Langford and his daughter Catherine arrive at a dig site where they are greeted by a man who is excited about a discovery. The man leads the two to large cover stones, which intrigues Dr. Langford, while Catherine is captivated by a golden locket, which she clutches as they head towards a large mysterious stone circle being hoisted by thick ropes. As Dr. Langford looks on, he has no clue as to what he is looking at. The villagers alert him to something buried underneath, and they see a carving of what looks like Anubis. In the present day, Catherine is now an old woman. She heads to a lecture being held by Egyptologist Daniel Jackson as he speaks to a skeptical audience about the origin of the pyramids. When he says that the pyramids were built long before the Egyptians, his audience begins to walk out on him. As he leaves, he is asked to enter a car where he meets with Catherine. She tells him that she has a job for him translating ancient hieroglyphics. Daniel is skeptical, but Catherine reminds him that he was recently evicted and now out of options, and hands him an envelope with travel plans, leaving him in the rain to consider his options. In the next scene, we see two army officers arrive at the house of Colonel Jack O'Neill and ask his wife for permission to speak with him. Upstairs, Colonel O'Neill sits with a gun in his hand looking at pictures of his son. The two officers enter the room and he hides the gun. They inform him that he has been reactivated and they leave, mentioning how his son recently died. Daniel is taken to a secret military installation in the mountains and guided inside, where he meets Dr. Gary Myers and Dr. Barbara Shore. They enter a room where Daniel sees a large stone monument assembled. Dr. Myers tells him about the engraven hieroglyphics, but as Daniel examines the stone, he determines that they are not hieroglyphics. He begins to rewrite the translation on a nearby board to uncover that Ra, the sun god, was sealed within a stargate. He is interrupted by Jack, who is now in charge of the entire operation. He begins to put restrictions in place to stop information from moving around too freely, then leaves. Catherine meets him and asks him why he is there, and he replies that he is there in case they succeed. 2 weeks later, Daniel is deep into his research of the stones, but is stuck on one symbol. He heads into the canteen to get coffee and sees the guard reading a paper. He spots something and grabs the paper from the guard. In the horoscope section, he realizes that the constellation Orion matches the symbol on the stones. Excited, he calls a meeting with the heads of the military, who arrive in a convoy. Daniel heads into the room and meets General West. They are skeptical that he was able to solve what they couldn't in 2 years. Daniel hands out papers and begins to explain that the images are not words, but actually star constellations. He further explains that the 7 constellations create a map, but Dr. Myers explains that the 7th symbol is not on the device. General West then reveals the device to Daniel, which is the circle Catherine's father discovered in the desert, now attached to wires. Daniel is led to the control room for the device and they begin to rotate the ring. Daniel is able to identify the 7th symbol on the computer, and Dr. Myers realizes that he was right all along. Now the military has the 7th symbol, they program it into their computers and begin to power up the ring, using the coordinates to align the Stargate's metal ring with markings along its outside. Once they do this, a wormhole suddenly opens to an unknown location. Not wasting any time, Colonel Jack sends in an unmanned probe and watches as it disappears slowly. They track the destination of the probe and find it in the Kalium galaxy, on a planet on the other side of the known universe. The wormhole closes and the military review the images from the probe and see a similar gate on the other side. They also realize that the planet is a match to Earth, but the markings on the other gate is different from what they know. General West wants to send a reconnaissance team to the other side, but would need to decipher the markings on the other gate to return, and Daniel volunteers to be a part of the team. Colonel Jack then heads to a secured room where he stares at the carving of Anubis. As Daniel prepares to leave with the team, Catherine gives him the pendant she found as a child as good luck. Colonel Jack then reviews his team of tough men, and then there's Daniel, sneezing from an allergic reaction. The team head to the gate and stare at it nervously. The men all ready their guns and slowly approach the wormhole, disappearing one by one. Daniel is the last to enter, traveling through a kaleidoscope of colors before ending up in a dark room. The soldiers begin to light flares and head towards a light in the distance cautiously. They arrive at the doorway and step out of what seems to be a large Egyptian-style temple. The soldiers step out to see sand everywhere, an enormous pyramid behind them with 3 moons in the distance. The men begin to gather data and Colonel Jack orders them to wrap it up as they need to leave within the hour. Jack orders Daniel to begin working on the Stargate, but Daniel argues that he needs more time, as he needs to locate the stone tablets with the constellations. The soldiers are angry with Daniel as now they are stuck until they find those tablets. Jack orders the men to set up a base and heads back into the temple, inspecting a bomb that he has brought with him secretly. He readies the bomb and hides it when one of his men enters the temple. Outside, Daniel spots hoof prints in the sand. He follows them to see a large hairy animal resembling a camel but with a face only a mother could love. Daniel approaches it and feeds it chocolate but accidentally startles the beast, causing it to drag him along the sand after getting caught in its harness. Colonel Jack and the other soldiers chase after him and in the distance they spot something amazing. They see a large group of people mining strange crystals, speaking in ancient language when they spot the soldiers. Jack and the others approach the people cautiously who are dressed in primitive clothing. Daniel tries to speak with them, but when they see the pendant around his neck, they all fall to their knees. Jack approaches one boy, but he runs off scared, returning with another Walmart camel being ridden by their leader Kasuf. Kasuf approaches them and speaks, ordering his servants to bring water to Jack and his men. Daniel then pulls out the chocolate bar and offers it to Kasuf, who finds it surprisingly good. Daniel and Jack follow the people back to their large overcrowded city with high walls. When they enter the city, the residents all kneel before them and reveal a large eye of Ra that matches Daniel's pendant. Daniel figures that they think that they were sent by Ra as emissaries. Suddenly horns begin to blare and the residents begin to panic. The soldiers at base try to reach Jack, reporting that they need to abandon base as there is a large sandstorm. The gates of the city begin to close and Jack and his men try to leave, aiming their guns at the people. One boy steps up, urging Jack to follow him. He shows Jack in the distance a large sandstorm approaching them. Back at base, the soldiers make it inside with their equipment safely. Later, Kasuf holds a feast for his guests and brings out strange creatures for them to eat. Daniel then tries to speak with him about his pendant. He begins to draw the symbol on the ground, but Kasuf panics, leading Daniel to figure that writing is forbidden for some reason. Kasuf orders a few women to take Daniel away, who clean him up then leaves. Another woman then enters, this time slowly taking off her clothes for him, but Daniel tells her to stop. He introduces himself to her and she speaks her name as Shayuri, Kasuf's daughter. Daniel tries to explain where he is from, drawing on the ground. Shayuri completes his symbol and he asks her to show him where she saw it. At the base, the soldiers all marvel at the intense dust storm around them. Suddenly the temple begins to shake as a large craft descends over the pyramid. Electricity begins to cackle as the craft uses the pyramid as a dock. Inside, the soldiers are on edge with their guns ready. They begin to get picked off one by shadowy figures. The last soldier catches a glimpse of their attacker, wearing an Egyptian outfit and a high-tech helmet. He is dragged into a large room by 2 guards. Before him, a large tomb begins to open, but he is knocked out before he can see the occupant emerge. In the city, Jack is smoking when he is joined by Skyra, Kasuf's son, who tries to smoke like Jack but quickly learns his lesson. Skyra then tries reaching for Jack's gun, but he gets mad, causing the boy to run off. Shayuri leads Daniel to a hidden temple where he sees ancient carved symbols. He tries reading them and Shayuri begins to correct him, happy that she can speak with him. Jack tries asking Skyra and his friends if they have seen Daniel and begins to describe him. Skyra understands and brings Daniel's jacket to the knockoff camel who tracks him down. Jack finds Daniel speaking with Shayuri, who explains that the people's language is a very ancient Egyptian. Through the symbols, Daniel learned that an alien from a dying world, looking for a way to cheat death, came to Earth and was able to possess a human body. In his human form, he established himself as Ra and began human civilization. He led a few humans back to his homeworld to mine crystals to aid his immortality. However, there was a rebellion on Earth and the gate was buried. Fearing another uprising, Ra outlawed reading and writing on his planet. Daniel then sees 6 symbols needed for them to head back home, but the 7th is worn away. Jack then rounds up his men and Daniel, and they leave the city, making their way back to base. Unknown to them, Skyra and his friends follow them back. In the distance, the men spot the large spaceship which has settled on the pyramid. The men rush inside with guns ready and quickly realize that they are not alone. They are attacked by a humanoid figure with a high-tech weapon. Jack leads Daniel to the bomb he has hidden but realizes it is missing. They are quickly surrounded by the aliens who lead them into a large room. The large spaceship begins to morph, allowing the sun inside. Before them, they see the god Ra making his way to his throne, realizing that he has captured Jack's bomb. Around them, the aliens remove their helmets to reveal human faces, and Ra being the young boy from the beginning. Seeing this, Jack shoots one of the guards and Daniel is killed during the firefight. Jack is thrown into a watery prison where he sees the rest of his men. Ra's soldiers then punish the residents of the city for helping the men, blowing up their homes and killing many. Ra sees Daniel's pendant and pities him. Daniel then wakes up in a resurrection tomb and sees that his wound is healed. He makes his way through the craft until he sees Ra. Daniel marvels at his resurrection, and Ra explains that humans are easy to repair. Ra is amazed that humans are able to harness the power of the atom. He reveals that he will send the bomb back to Earth and multiply its power 100 times. In the city, Shayuri speaks to her brother and friends about rebelling against the old gods. Ra then calls an assembly of all the humans. He has planned an execution of Jack and his soldiers to be carried out by Daniel himself, who, if refuses, will die instead. As Daniel steps toward the men, he sees that Skyra has brought their guns. Daniel then creates a distraction, and he and Jack, along with his men, escape. They make their way to a hideout, and Daniel forces Jack to come clean about the bomb. Jack explains that his orders were to track down any sign of danger and destroy the Stargate. Daniel tells them about Ra's plan, and Jack decides to stop Ra at all costs and complete his mission. Ra is pissed that his guards have allowed the soldiers to escape. He uses a powerful weapon to send one of his guards flying, then uses it to fry the guard's brain. In the city, Daniel sees Skyra drawing on the wall and figures out the 7th symbol. At the mines, Jack and his men kill one of the guards using their weapons. Kasuf is worried that they will bring disaster, but Daniel reveals that their gods are just humans like he is. Ra then puts his plan into motion and has his guards ready the bomb to be transported to Earth. Jack and his men disguise themselves as servants and launch their attack inside the pyramid. Hearing the gunfire, the humans try to rush inside but are locked out. Ra then sends out his spaceships to stop the rebellion. Jack makes his way to the bomb and arms it. He tells Daniel to leave as he plans to stay behind. They are attacked, and Shayuri is killed by a guard before Daniel takes him out. Daniel then takes Shayuri up into the spaceship, planning to use the resurrection tomb to bring her back to life. Jack is attacked. He battles against the bulky guard as he tries to arm the bomb but is having a hard time. He finally manages to take down the big man and take him out. Shayuri is healed, and as Daniel makes his way out with her, Ra sees them and attacks Daniel, trying to fry his brain. Daniel is saved when Jack activates the teleporter, injuring Ra in the process. Outside, the kids are being attacked and taken out as they try to fight. Jack's men decide to surrender to save their lives, but as they do, they see Kasuf show up with all the humans, who overwhelm the guards. Seeing this, Ra activates his ship and begins to take off. Seeing Ra leaving, Jack tries to deactivate the bomb, but he cannot. Daniel gets an idea and teleports the bomb into Ra's ship, and it explodes, killing the powerful alien. The people all begin to celebrate their victory and freedom. Skyra and his friends give Jack a salute out of respect, and Shayuri and Daniel share a kiss. Daniel has reactivated the portal, and the soldiers all thank him before heading through. Daniel plans to stay behind and hands Jack Catherine's pendant, and Jack steps back through to Earth.